Ukubona useza, uphithizela. Isibhoko sase isando.
Impi, qedile.
Ubhuti wami phela ngasamdingi. Baba ingane yethu ngeke ibesele. Sophuma kwecinga.
Hi guys, welcome to the hangout room. My name is Zoe, and as always, I'm not alone. I'm with my bestie, Lelo.
What's up?
And today we're going to be doing a review of a South African movie called Amandla. And for those who like to know, Amandla means power. And for those who haven't watched the movie, spoiler alert, we are going to be analyzing and talking about every single thing that happened in the movie. So the plot of this movie, it follows two boys whose life take different turns after a tragedy during their childhood, and in adult they find themselves standing on opposite direction with gang infested Soweto, South Africa, post-apartheid. So that's what the overall story is about.
Why do you think this movie was called Amandla? What power is being displayed in this movie?
The power of white people to do anything they want and get away with it.
I choose violence.
I wouldn't say he gets what he wants all the time necessarily, because he gets to be in a position of power, but he's pissed off all the time because things aren't going the way he wants. He's busy complaining, oh, you blacks took over the country. So he's not getting what he wants. He's angry.
Angry white man.
Yeah, he's very angry. So he's not getting what he wants, but he is in the position of power. Yeah, while he's complaining about how little power he has.
Welcome to South Africa. Super girl.
Power. Do you think that's an adequate or an accurate or a reflective title for this movie?
It depends on which side you're standing on.
Okay.
If you were the white police officer, then power will be a good title for your segment because he was extremely powerful throughout the movie while everybody else was powerless.
It's, I don't know, maybe I'm being a little too generous now, but maybe it's talking about power dynamics. I mean, power doesn't necessarily mean the main character is powerful. It could be because the main character has no power, and that's why it's called power. It could be because the whole movie is dealing with people having power over the main character. At first it's the racist white people on the farm, then it's the gangsters in the hood. So I don't know. Personally, I don't feel like it's a good title because I don't know what it's talking about. And because it could be anything and it could be nothing, that it just feels like a little too broad for me. I feel like after the setup of the movie, when the house burns down and the two brothers go off stealing milk or whatever they were doing, I was like, okay, this is a good setup. I'm like, if this is where you're starting the story, there's a lot of different places you can go with it. Personally, I thought the brothers were going to get separated. Like, I saw the trailer before, so I knew, okay, one's going to end up a policeman, one's going to end up a gangster. But I thought they were going to get separated, and this was going to be a nature-nurture thing. And I thought, oh, this one was going to get found by like a nice family and whatever, and then that's why he becomes a policeman. And this one just grows up on the street and then he becomes a criminal. But the fact that these two were together the entire time, and somehow the little brother never found out that the big brother was a criminal, and somehow, like, firstly, why are you even lying to your brother? Why? Especially when the first meal you had after your parents died was a meal you stole. So it's like, obviously I'm going to have to do crime to keep us alive. Like,
Doesn't make any sense.
I think another thing is that it just feels a little inauthentic in a number of ways. Like, number one, the younger brother must be the worst policeman ever then. You're living with a gangster and you can't, like, you're supposed to be out here catching gangsters and investigating crimes, and you can't tell there's a criminal in your house and you live in a one-bedroom shack.
Yep.
There's no secrets here. Like, it just didn't feel real. I think there's probably a world where you could tell the story believably, but I just don't think this was it. They just didn't set it up well for me to be like, oh, okay, that's how he's been keeping the secret. I'm just like, how?
What the hell?
How? Especially when the entire ghetto knows he's a criminal. As soon as he walks in, all the gangsters are like, oh, that guy, he's back.
To the team. So happy to have you here.
Come on, bro.
The female characters in the story. Yeah, because I feel like they probably get the shortest end of the stick when it comes to these characterizations. It's at the worst is Elizabeth after the time skip. I'll say that. From the beginning of the story, I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting because they set her up as like, there's like a flirtation between them. They like have a crush on each other, which kind of undercuts the fact that she's like friendly to them and nice to them, because it's like, are you only nice to them because you're attracted to this guy? Anyway, but anyway, she's friendly to them. That's nice. And then after the time skip, when she comes back, she literally comes back to be raped and killed. That's her whole purpose in the story. In fact, it makes the beginning almost even worse now, because it seems like they set her up to be like this perfect shining angel just so she can be crumbled down. Like, building up her character in the beginning wasn't even to take her in an interesting journey. It's just so that there's something that can be destroyed later so that these guys can feel bad about it. Now, I thought, okay, when she comes back and then there's the rape, I'm like, okay, firstly, I don't like this. I don't like that she's being raped before she even gets any lines, and then she's in a coma and she's not talking for the rest of the movie. I'm like, you're not a character anymore. Now you're just like an object that we accidentally broke. It's like, oh, we broke the the sexy lamp.
We broke the sexy lamp.
Yeah, it's called the sexy lamp test. And it says, the sexy lamp test addresses the ubiquitous and much despised strong female character trope, in which a female character is strong, however, this is defined on paper, yet completely lacks agency or relevance to the plot. So, essentially it's saying, if you could replace a character with just a sexy lamp, and the story can still work, then you fail to write a compelling female character. And at the beginning, they set her up as like, oh, it's this character, but later, she's a sexy lamp. It's like, we accidentally broke the lamp, and now we all feel sad about it, but her opinions don't matter, what she's doing doesn't matter, anything coming out of her mouth or her brain doesn't matter after the time skip, after we go into the adult versions of the characters.
And not only was it figuratively, it was literally, she never once uttered
Another
single word.
She died at the end, right?
Yeah.
She died.
The story was told through the pictures on the wall, where that she was fighting for freedom in South Africa.
And it's about making him feel like, oh, she was one of the good ones still. She was still fighting for me. As a character, I feel like she's a sexy lamp. I feel like she's there to be put on a pedestal early on, to be like, you're one of the good ones, so that we can feel terrible for what happens to you later on.
Yeah.
This could have happened to anyone. I don't feel like this is... She's imperative as a character in this plot. The second character with any sort of relevance to the plot is Impi's wife or girlfriend.
Whose name is hard to even remember.
Don't even remember.
Because every time they make a reference to her, they refer to her as the girlfriend. It's like they don't even bother to give her an identity.
I feel like that the white lady's purpose in the story is to be this shining light white lady, so that she can get hurt. And I feel like her purpose is to essentially be a womb. She's like, I'm holding your baby, so that's why you should care. And I was like, number one, okay, she gets a little more opinion. Like, she's at least gets to talk to Impy. But
she just gets to talk.
Yeah, like
that's the standard.
That's the standard.
Movie.
Yeah, at least she gets to talk.
Female gets to talk.
Yeah, but again, the whole purpose, especially when it comes to Impy's life, the struggle is, okay, she's staying at this other woman's house and I have to keep paying rent to keep her. It's almost like she's a child. Like, I don't know what she's doing to earn any money or anything, but his whole struggle is, I need to take care of her. She's like this, like, gentle, perfect being that's like...
Little bird.
Yeah, this little bird I need to protect.
Yeah.
You won't hurt me.
No, little bird, I won't hurt you.
both of these women, I feel like, are first put on pedestals for their like purity and oh, wait a minute, they're both for the same man. That's also weird. So number one, his childhood crush, and then number two, his actual girlfriend or wife, whatever, later in the story, who's holding his baby. And I feel like both of these women are there to make this man feel bad about his failures in life. Either his failure to stand up to the gang when they force him to force himself onto her, and then his failures as a husband and as a father to take care of her, give her a place to stay, and then obviously keep her safe later in the story when she eventually gets hurt.
With both of these girls, or this woman, they also have one thing in common, is that they both suffer violence, brutal attacks, so that the audience can go, oh my god! Yeah. It's like they're just there to serve as a shock value throughout the movie, because their scenes and their death are like the most brutal.
Yeah, and this is obviously a common trope. They call it fridging in a lot of media, which comes from the old Green Lantern cartoons, where Green Lantern came home one day after being a superhero, and one of the villains had left a note on his table like, haha, Green Lantern, I finally got you, check the fridge. And he went and opened the fridge and his girlfriend's body was in there. So now they use the term fridging to mean killing a woman to drive the man's plot forward. Anyway, when it comes to fridging female characters, I feel like both of these characters were fridged, but personally, I feel like fridging isn't always terrible. For example, if the whole story's about that, like John Wick, it starts with my wife died, and then my dog died, and now I'm going on my revenge story. Right? It's all about.
And that's why I hate John Wick.
It's all about getting that revenge, right? So I feel like if that's the whole story, then fine, because it pushes the characters. But the problem with these fridging of these two characters, I feel like okay, you can say they hurt these characters or killed these women to push this man's story forward. The problem is, story doesn't get pushed forward.
It goes nowhere.
It goes nowhere. Like, what do you do now because of this?
I was waiting for him to go on a revenge spree and get his brother to help him, to bring guns, help me get away with it. Like,
nothing changes. He's still scared. He's still trying to save money to go back to KZN. Nothing changes. I'm like, let's say, for instance, they were like, this is a story about a man becoming a serial killer, and he just goes on a killing spree and kills all these people out of revenge. Okay, how do we get there? He has to lose something important to him. Okay, he loses his wife or whatever. That, I can see the logical steps. But now I'm like, why did this white woman die? Why did his wife die? What happened next in the story that required this to happen?
Just so he can run around the town shop at night and then die 5 minutes later.
Pointless. Like, it feels to me like these women didn't need to die. Everything that happens after these women dying was going to happen anyway. Even if a wife didn't die, he still wanted to leave and go to KZN. The gangsters still would have been mad. There still would have been the whole beef. They would have shot each other. The cops would have come. Everything would have happened exactly the same. So I feel like these women are being put through this terrible violence for no apparent reason.
I had a reason.
What was the reason? What was the reason?
I just explained the reason.
What was the reason, bitch?
I don't need to explain myself to you. And
what was the reason?
Other than us going, oh, really?
That's why it really took me back and surprised me when I found out this was written and directed by a woman. So, woman, I don't get it. I don't get how you can underserve the female characters so badly. We'll give props to the cast. I think the cast does a pretty good job with all their roles, even though they're not given much to do. But with what they're given to do, I feel like they nail it. I think, especially Impy and the gangster character, I think they both did a very good job. The brother that's a cop, I don't know what it is about his face. He's got like a baby face. I think that's why they hired him. He's the younger brother. He's like the innocent one. But the whole time I just kept thinking like, bro, this is like a hard world and you don't look like you built for this. You just seems too soft. But I guess he's the soft brother. That's the point.
Sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. My favorite character is definitely Impy. I like him a lot. His younger brother was extremely annoying, and I found him to be ungrateful for everything that Impy has done for him, and he chose to be oblivious of everything that Impi has done for him. Is there anything in the movie that you actually liked except for the acting skills guy Impi and the gangster? I don't know. That's what you have to think about it.
I don't know, it looked okay. Cinematography wasn't terrible. It wasn't great either, but it was fine. The thing for me is I kept feeling like it was too small. It felt like someone had filmed, especially when it comes to the small on the ground scenes, it felt like someone had filmed something very, very low budget, and then someone else had given them a little bit more budget to film establishing shots. Because now and then there'd be a cool shot of the camera going over the Kasi, and I'm like, whoa, how did they film this with a drone, or how did they do this? And it's floating over all the shacks, and then it comes down into the alleyway. I'm like, whoa. And then as soon as we get into the building, I'm like, okay, now we're in an episode of Generations or whatever. Yeah. Now, I think the worst part of the movie, though, by far, I almost turned it off, but it was already 5 minutes to the end, was when Elizabeth dies and you see Impi's hand grabbing her hand on the bed as if his soul's taking her to heaven. I'm like, first of all, man, you got a wife and girl and fucking son. Shouldn't you be taking her to heaven with you if you're going to heaven? And then secondly, you the one that raped and murdered this woman. You think she wants you take... I don't know. It just felt sentimental, and it kept cutting between them as children together. I don't know if they were doing bow and... What are they doing? A slingshot?
Yeah.
And he kept being face to face, and I'm just and it's slow motion, and it's sappy, and I'm just you're trying to make this seem...
romantic.
Or not really romantic, more sentimental than romantic. But you're trying to make me feel sad for him, it seems more than anyone. And I'm like, this is icky. I don't like this at all.
I think she really felt like the story was told in a way that is supposed to make me believe that Impi and Elizabeth were soulmates, and because of the incident that happened when they were children, they were separated and grew up in separate worlds, so they couldn't be together. But in death, they will be together because they are meant to be together. They are soulmates.
And the wife? Or is it polygamy? We're going old school Zulu ways. We have two wives in heaven.
The wife was just a warm sitter while Elizabeth was away.
Wow.
That's what she...
It seems like it, right?
Impi's goal in this movie was for him to go to KwaZulu-Natal to be with his people. Okay.
Take a taxi, man.
And they made it seem like getting money to go to KwaZulu-Natal was the hardest thing in the world. He could have pickpocketed one person one day and afford a taxi from Johannesburg to KwaZulu-Natal. It's a 4-hour drive, guys.
Yeah, and he kept paying this lady the rent.
The rent money is what he could have used to take a taxi to KwaZulu-Natal. They tried to make it seem like KwaZulu was such a far, far place away that he had to work days on end to afford a bus ticket.
So it's not just the fact that he's talking about KwaZulu-Natal it's 1,000 miles away and he needs to save up his whole life to go there. But he's also talking about KwaZulu-Natal like it's fucking Wakanda, and once you get there, your life will be set forever. It's it's gonna be the same thing. If you're struggling here and you can't pay for your rent, what makes you think in KZN you're gonna be able to pay for your rent? It's just another city. It's not the Garden of Eden. There's no money growing on trees, bruh. One thing if the characters brought it up, if he was no, honey, everything will be better when we get to KwaZulu, and his wife was why? What's going to change when we get there? Then I'd be oh, okay, at least you thought about it. But no one's questioning. It's just yeah, KwaZulu, yeah, one day. And I'm just what? Who cares? I live in KZN. It's fine. It's not that great. And I get that he heard about this when he was a child from his parents. So it's always this dream in the back of his head. But I don't get why other characters don't bring it up. I don't get why his girlfriend isn't that's your dream to go back home. Why should I want to go to KZN? The character needs something to strive towards. He needs a goal. So I'm go back to your home that your parents told you about, that you got unfairly kicked out of or whatever. Like, it would have been more better if they actually went into detail. Maybe that would be better. Maybe if it was like there was land that was stolen from us and we put a land claim and waiting for the government to give us back, and we fighting, but we need more money for a lawyer to fight this land claim and then we can file the land claim and get our farm back. Maybe that same farm they grew up on or something like that. But the fact that it's too broad. It's just like KZN things will be better. And I'm like, wow. Right. Yeah, like I'm not saying it's impossible that things could be better in KZN. You just don't explain it. The story just doesn't go into detail on why things are going to be better.
I'm under the impression that the movie tried to tell too many stories at once, and then it just
told nothing.
Yeah, because it's like it started off by saying, let's tell a story about South Africa during apartheid, and it's like, and then we fast forward to post apartheid, and then let's tell try and how apartheid and racism has resulted in gang-invested townships in South Africa, but they
touch on everything instead of going deep.
And then tribalism in South Africa, which is a real thing, but it's like you're just touching on these topics and you don't go deep into it.
Yeah, I think every single one of them is like a setup for a pretty interesting story if you went deep. Yeah. Like the whole idea of, okay, two kids, there's a tragedy that happens, then they grow up. One becomes a criminal, or starts working with the police, one starts working with the gangsters. That's exactly the same premise of my favorite thing that came out last year, Arcane. Yep. Two kids, tragedy, one becomes a criminal, one becomes a cop. It's exactly the same setup, but one is fucking brilliant, and the other one is like nothing because they don't go deep into it. Like once they're like, he's a criminal, that's it. It's just criminal, working for this gangster, full stop. You're a cop, we don't go deep into it. How did you become a cop? What inspired you to become a cop but inspired him to become a criminal? Why are you guys doing this? Like, we never go really deep into just like, well, we were starving, so I needed to do some stuff to make money. And overall, I'll say, for South African film, not bad. Not terrible.
It's not the worst movie ever.
Yeah, it's not terrible, but it's so disappointing. It's so disappointing.
You're bored at home and you just want to watch a sequel of events of things that happened for an hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah, and comment down below. Tell us what you think about it.
And please leave a comment. Let us know what you guys think. Maybe you guys disagree and you think this movie was the best movie ever. Let us know. And please don't forget to do the YouTube thingies. And that is to like, comment, and subscribe, and share. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Later.